5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. I'm Dear Myrtle, your friend in genealogy, and welcome to the Scotland Genealogy Study Group. Our moderator is Claire V. Brissenbanks, and she knows a great deal about Scottish research. And we're joined today by Billy Wallace on the panel. Also, Ed is with us this morning. And Cousin Russ, you're there specifically to bring the comments in from the members of the community who are watching today. In fact, you've got one already. You're muted, dear.
Hillary is watching today, greeting and trying to figure out my homework for this week for
I know.
Friday.
On Friday's study group, a bit of a challenge. So, Claire, what shall we do this morning? You're muted.
Okay, we're going to just review, tidy up a few things from the physical records of birth, marriages, and death. There was a couple of record sets that we really need to talk about just really quick before we slip into the poor law records. And I'm excited about that because these are a couple that people, they search and search and they go through all of the records and they just can't find them. And there's a couple of other record sets that they might want to consider.
All right, so I've got my screen up. Are we going to be at Family Search for this first one?
Yes, we're going to talk about blotter records.
Okay, and how would you have me search for those?
Okay, let's do the wiki so we can tell you what they are first, okay?
All righty.
And so if you type in the word blotter records there, it would be helpful.
We love the Family Search wiki.
Oh, we do. It's a fabulous thing.
All right, I'm zooming in so everybody can see that a little better. All right, and I'm pressing enter. And here we go.
Right at the top there. Okay, and if you look down there on number 4, keep going down, you'll see where it says blotter records.
All right.
It's not a very big description. I mean, if you were to Google that, you'd get a bigger description, but really it was like the rough draft before they actually entered it into the parish registers. And I've worked in the blotter registers for a while, but they're all on microfilm, so they're not on Scotland's People or anywhere, but they're all on microfilm.
All right. Can we go through the thing of ordering it so people can figure that out?
Yes, and I think it would be a great idea. Could you show us how to do that, Pat?
All right, so I have another tab for Family Search, and this time I want to search the catalog because the catalog is where we can see what microfilm and microfiche and digital records does Family Search have.
Right.
Catalog, and we're going to go to keyword. Usually we search by the place where the ancestor lived. Blotter records. Now, okay. All right, now there's some for New York, Bureau of Indian Affairs. We've got to find them for Scotland. Oh, here's one. Which one do you want me to click? Oh, I'm starting to see a lot of them.
This is where you'll find all of them, yeah. And they have sometimes you'll find them there. And notice, there it is. If you do the first one, it doesn't matter. Blotter registered for the
Cowley Chapel.
That's fine, yeah.
Okay. All right, now this is on one microfilm reel.
Yeah.
And I can order this. Of course, I happen to live in Salt Lake City, so I could just go downtown. But I would like to order it. So let's talk about how do you order. And I don't know how to do it because I haven't done it for a long time. I think that we can also check to see if there's another family history center that has it. And right now, the London, England Family Search Center and the Family History Library have it. So that tells me I do need to order this microfilm. All right. Now, we can order, it says right here, you can order microfilms through our online ordering system. For viewing at your local Family History Center. All right, so I'm going to remember this number.
I think you can just click it.
Oh, okay. All right. So I but I have to specify. Oh, good. It's got the film number there. But what it does not do is the item number. And it was item number 4, wasn't it?
Item number 1. See, it's down below a little bit.
But let me go back. Oh, wait. 2, 3, 4.
3 and 4. So it has all those different blotter records from different locations. So.
All right, and I need to tell folks that the item number is important whenever you order microfilm because, for instance, this is for a completely different area, the item number 1. And so I might put the microfilm, once it's arrived at my Family History Center, I might put it up there and say, oh, I ordered the wrong film. I got it for this locality, and I need it for the other locality. So, and you can also realize that sometimes they'll have Scotland and Pennsylvania and South Carolina and all on the same film, oddly enough. I mean, seriously. So that item number is important. All right. So we're ready to order the film. We're going to add it to our cart. And I have previously ordered microfilm, and I have it going to my Riverton, Utah Family Search Center. And that's because that's up here. You can barely see it. And if you are not aware of what's available in your area, I mean, because there are family search centers in public libraries. There, here in the United States, we'll say Utah, and I'm clicking search. We could do this for any country. There are 4,500 plus. Now, below here, let me move the whole entire screen. Of course, there are a lot here in Utah. But you just pick one. So let me get down to the RS, or to Riverton. Riverton Family Search Center, there's the address. Most of the family history centers are in LDS chapels. And they have limited hours, so you need to inquire about that. All right, so we will save that as my family search center of choice. Okay, that's my default family history center. All right, and that's how you then go forward and place the order. I won't go through. You don't need to know my credit card number or anything like that. Plus, I don't have Scottish ancestry at the moment. Claire, thanks for having us do that little demonstration of how to order the Scotland blotter records. I want to hear from the panel. Has anybody out there used those records? Audrey Collins from the National Archives of the UK. Hello. Very good. All right, here, panelists. Ed, have you used blotter records before?
No, I haven't. I'm a little bit buried at the moment after a recent research visit up to Scotland in July. So I've already got a stack of new information on my plate. It's going to take a little while to digest it and try and put everyone in the trees. So I will get around to these records.
Okay, well, because if I remember correctly, when you first joined us, you had explained to us that you do a lot of research in Scottish records and you are looking for hints for something unusual. Claire, are you noticing in the blotter records that there might be things entered there that somehow didn't make it into the actual parish record, or that there was a discrepancy?
I have found that when I had to do a research project for one of our VIPs, and I found a number of discrepancies, and I had to check the blotter records as well as the OPRs, and I found stuff in the blotter records that wasn't in the OPRs. So it's worth checking both, and it's the same situation when someone's looking at parish records for England. We tell them to look at the bishop transcripts as well as the parish records.
Excellent. Okay, something from the community, Russ?
Yeah, Molly says, my local library will allow us to have them sent there to be read, so it might be an option for people. And I'm seeing the same thing in my area where more and more libraries are becoming Family History Center libraries.
Yes, where they have those same lending library privileges as might be available in an LDS church. I think the advantage of that, folks, is that public libraries are open more hours in a week, and that makes it easier for you to get in to see your microfilm.
And staffing issues, yep.
Yeah, we're not going to have staffing issues,
and they'll also have probably microfilm readers and things, so it'll be less of an equipment cost for that library. Would already have the
reader printers and all that,
and copy machines and things, so it'll be a lot easier for patrons.
Okay, so folks, find out about that. You know, I am amazed when I speak publicly and I'm in a room with 300 or 400 people and I ask them, well, first of all, I ask all the Family History Center directors to stand up, and I applaud them because of the work they do. But then I ask everybody else, how many of you go to your local Family History Center? And it's like 20%. And I think it's because people think everything's on the internet. And here we have an example. It's not all on the net, and you need to look at this record group. You need to look at it on microfilm. The Family History Library will share most of its microfilm. There's only a few record groups that are restricted, and I don't think there are any in the Scotland area. Are there that are restricted, Claire?
No, I don't know.
I don't think so.
If I've ever, if I ordered it, it would come back saying that it was restricted.
Yeah.
But I don't recall anything being restricted at this point.
Yeah, there are only a few that are restricted by covenant or contract with the original archive or church, but to my knowledge, they're not at all in this category of Scotland. So let's go forward and talk to us a little bit more.
Just one quick question. I thought it was interesting when you looked at the location for where those films were. The collection is at the London Family History Center, so that'd be good for Audrey to know if someone came into her library and wanted to know where they could get those. They're right at the London Family History Center, right downtown there.
All right, so we're
the London Family.
Go ahead.
It's particularly good for me because, of course, the London Family History Centre is in our building. When we send people, when somebody says, "Oh, I want to look at Scottish records and stuff that's on film," and I just say, "See those nice people over there in the blue shirts?" Away you go.
I didn't realize it was right in your building.
Yes.
No, I didn't know that either. So thanks for telling us, Audrey. But see, those blotter records are all available on film right there in London at your facility, which is fabulous.
All right, just one more thing to say about ordering a microfilm. The Family History Library has a lot of different media, so they cannot circulate books and they cannot circulate CDs. Those have to be viewed in the Family History Library. And there are some advantages going to your Family History Center because here in the U.S. I'm aware of several of the major genealogy websites have a library type edition that is available for free at Family History Centers. All right, on to the next baby.
Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about is the Gretna Greens.
Okay, I will get ready for that.
And I think that if you're still in that family search mode, they have a fabulous article to show. There's a lot of Gretna Green marriages right here in the United States. Just pull that up for a second.
So what is the definition of Gretna Green for our newbies?
Okay, let's go to the Family Search Wiki for that one.
All right, so I'm going to familysearch.org to the wiki.
And just type in the word Gretna Greens. And you'll see that that's not just a term for Scotland. It's a term for lots of things. Well, we lost your face. There you go. Yeah. And they even provide a wonderful map, which is really nice.
Okay.
So there we go, like that first
one in the United States. So we'll just
so they can be aware, because they may be struggling with finding them even in the United States. But it says it's originated in Scotland. So if you just see that, it tells you about it. So go ahead.
All right. So this is where young couples run away from their home to get married. My parents did this. Their Gretna Green was Port Orchard, Washington, a ferry boat away from Seattle, so the marriage wouldn't show up in the Seattle papers. Okay, Scottish origins, because Gretna Green was a town famous for runaway marriages. All right, and then here's a list of them in the U.S. as is known.
Right, and there's a little map down below that shows you all the locations. It's quite interesting.
Okay.
I thought until just now, I thought that Gretna Green was a place, and so in my mind as you were talking about it, I was wondering why you kept saying Gretna Greens with the
an
S.
S.
And now
Yeah.
I know. Thank you.
Yep. So very interesting. So there's Las Vegas, it looks like, and
Yeah.
Reno and Tahoe, and I think that's, I don't know, is that Elk, Winnemucca? Let's see what it is for Nevada.
Right there. It should have it right up there under Nevada.
Yeah, it's Winnemucca. Oh, that's in for Oregon. People would come there from Oregon. Wow.
What was in Maryland?
All right, we'll scroll up to Maryland.
There it is, Elkton. Yep.
Yep, Elkton was very famous for that.
Yep.
Or anything in Howard County. Very interessante. But for people who came from New England, Philadelphia, and New York City, that's a big draw.
That is a big draw, and I just felt it was important that we would mention that because the origins are in Scotland, but it did flow over to here, and it still exists in Scotland today, just like it does exist in the United States today. But these are the meccas for those records, and so people may struggle and say, I can't find them. Well, have you thought about Gretna Greens?
Mm-hmm.
Can I just say something about English ones?
Yes.
The reason that people in England would go to Gretna to get married is because Scottish marriage law, get married at 16 without parental permission. So that's where runaways went to. And I thought that's kind of dumb because anywhere else in Scotland would do just as well. Gretna's only the first place they look. But so, you know, so if you really were on the run, go somewhere, anywhere. But what people don't always realise is that if you're down in the south of England, Scotland's an awfully long way. I have done it there and back in a day, just because, but generally speaking, it's a long way and it's quite tricky. But marriage law in the Channel Islands was fairly relaxed. So some people in the south could get on a boat at Southampton, say, and go and get married in Jersey or Guernsey, where different laws applied. So sometimes people eloped south as well as north, or instead of north.
Oh, very interesting. I appreciate that. We've got something from the community, Cousin Russ.
Yeah, this is the comment that says, visit your family center. Barbara says, Janice at the Family History Center locally was the very first person to encourage me to document my history.
Yay.
Cool. So that's a good reason to visit your local Family History Center.
Yes. We're not expecting our local Family History Center directors to know everything about every country. For instance, I don't know any. I always say things about North and South Dakota, and now I have Mr. Mert who's got North Dakota. I'm going to have to brush up on that. Okay.
So now if we go to the Gretna Green database, there's one in Ancestry right there.
Yes, and Cousin Russ will share this link, and I will share my screen.
Right, and let's look at talk about the database itself. We go look down and see on the right, and then down below it tells you a little bit about that information, right there.
Okay, so we could use this to help create a good citation. It will help us, and so this explains that Marriage Act law about clandestine marriages in England that pushed people to Gretna or over to Guernsey Jersey. Very interesting. And so it was the Lang collection of Gretna Green marriage registers because of David and Simon Lang, who were the father and son priests that performed many marriages between 1794 and 1828. But this covers a broader year range than that, doesn't it?
Don, just a little bit, the next paragraph, Pat.
Oh, okay.
Next paragraph. More, you just missed one paragraph right there. The entire collection.
Okay. 1794 to 1895. Lang registers make up approximately 50%. So this is not an all-inclusive Gretna Green collection, but it does cover a big span. of
right.
time.
I mean, there's always going to be some records that are not we don't have access to. This is one collection. I'm sure there are other collections. For instance, it would be interesting to find out where the records are, where the collection is for the resource of the ones that Audrey just informed us about.
You know, this reminds me of a British record, Boyd's Marriage Index, and I was very distressed because my ancestors were not listed in Boyd's Marriage Index until I found out what that record collection was. Those were the books that he could index that were in this particular spot, and it didn't include, isn't it Palo or somebody else in England did an index of what was, yes, that was available to you.
There's also the Palette marriage records.
So the whole point of it is old Mert should have scrolled all the way down, reading every single part of this description so I could get the hang of what this collection was all about. All right, so shall we search it?
Yes,
oh, wait,
go ahead.
We're going to mention on the side, John.
Oh, yes, go ahead, John.
Billy,
yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting to note that there's related data collections where you might get a clue they were married in Gretna, but they can also turn up in their own home parish later on as a married couple. Or you can find more information about them in other areas. So it's a good one to be aware of, that once you've searched here, there's still more record sets to go to.
All right, that sounds wonderful. Okay, thank you, Ancestry.com. Now we've switched from Family Search to Ancestry because this is where the records are. So we were going to practice with, or you had me practice with the name Lawson.
Yep.
All right, and all I'm doing is putting the last name in here, folks, and we shall see what we shall see. Basically, there's two kinds of hits, and let's describe the difference between them. At first, you could notice that there's a missing segment here that has, whereas below they have the dates. And so what we were looking at here, we'll just take the first one, is and we'll view the image, and it's really kind of like the beginning of any marriage register book, where it just lists the couple and a date, and a
page.
Yes, I can't even talk. All right, and they're not exactly in perfect alphabetical order. Here's Harding's, then they threw in a Hughes, then a Hireling, then a Hill. They put all the H's together. And I've always been taught to read the entire index like this, because suppose a particular area had a lot of people whose last name began with H, and not too many over there in the O. So they might put H's over on the O page. You need to read the entire index to see what you can pick up.
Yeah. Can I just say, there's another really good thing. It just came up a few days ago, to always look at the index, even if the whole book has been transcribed and digitized. One of the Quaker records books in our series RG6, somebody just queried this recently. They said that they could see a name in, or two or three names in the index pages, but they couldn't see them in the register itself, which was filmed years and years ago, and it's now available on 2 or 3 different websites. And we looked at the film versions, and it looks as though a page might have been missed out when they were filmed. So when I get back to work on Friday, I should have done it yesterday, but I was busy doing a webinar. When I get back to work on Friday, we've ordered the original book, which is kept off-site, and I've got to go and have a look at that. Just looking at the film, it's been filmed in a really funny order.
Yeah.
So somebody's messed up somewhere. So it could be that the pages are completely and utterly missing, but it could be that they just got missed out, in which case they will be scanned and they will be added. And there will be some, I think it's 2 or 3 marriages that have been lying undetected for decades. And it was only because somebody was thorough and looked at the index that we're actually even bothering to check with the original. So that's another really good reason.
Yeah, I see a blog post coming. I love it. All right.
I'll know what the answer is on Friday.
Yes. Oh, that's good. You'll have to let us know because we're going to be concerned.
I will. Okay, I promise.
Yeah, don't leave us hanging.
Yes. All right. So that was probably the best description of why we read indexes. Thank you for that. All right. So I want to get back to our original hit list where we had just typed in the name Lawson. And I don't want to focus on the actual search itself. That's another discussion in and of itself. But I do want to talk about this kind of record where we end up with a date and a locality as opposed to just the two names, the bride and groom. Because then we're looking at a very different record thrown in this same record collection at Ancestry.com, known as All Gretna Green Scotland Marriage Registers and Results for Lawson. Well, actually, all is not part of the title, and results for Lawson is not part of the title. Those have been added. All right, so which one was it you wanted me to look at?
We can just go to the first one if you'd
like.
Okay.
So, and by the way, if I were to transcribe this, I would not type John. I would type J-N-O for this name.
Yep.
You type what you see. All right. Now, I love being able to take and copy and paste this into notes for the marriage.
I do too. I do.
And then I go from there and add the image and all that. But I like having that ability here at any website. So let's go view the actual page. And before we zoom in, look at how worn these pages are. That's just incredible. All right, so now we got to find John, and I think he's right here.
Yep.
All right, so I'm going to zoom in so that I can pull it up. Oh, he's from St. Luke, Middlesex. That's where some of my people are from. Okay, so it says 26 September, or 1826, September 9th.
Yep.
John Newberry.
St. Luke, Middlesex, London.
Yes, and Harriet.
G-O-U-T-O or D-O. Gudo.
Yeah.
Reynolds, I think that's Reynolds.
That's her middle name.
That's her middle name, yeah.
And D-O means diddle.
Ditto, yep.
Middlesex, okay. Witnesses were John, somebody or other, and Mary Ann Worthing.
I think John Liverton.
Yes. All right. And we know those witnesses could be important. Anybody want to talk about the importance of witnesses?
I want you to click on the index in the lower left-hand corner of that screen to see what they transcribed.
Okay, we're talking John Newberry. So let's scroll down. Can't be that far down.
Should be near the top.
Yeah.
There it is, right above it. There it is.
Oh, they say that is Gould. Yes,
yeah,
that could be Gould, Reynolds, but it definitely has an S on the end. Of
St. Luke.
Yes, very good. And they didn't say anything for him. That was a terrible transcription.
That is a terrible transcription, yeah. So, I mean, you can also explain how you can make corrections there. So you can go in. That would be a good point. I would definitely use that opportunity to correct that.
Yeah, but I can't click to improve it. I cannot.
Interesting.
You can do it on census records, but not on all the databases. This is just one at Ancestry. We cannot change it. So that's frustrating. Somebody kind of cheated on that.
Yeah, they did.
All right, but it did give us a different way of looking at her middle name.
Right.
And this is also a prime example that you don't want to rely only on the index because we're missing the witnesses' names. And they could be, if you're at a Gretna Green, you may not take your best friends with you. It could be just anybody off the street. But we don't know that yet, do we?
No. And it could be a brother or sister, a cousin, a relative. We don't know.
In my parents' case, when I see who the witnesses were, it was my dad's brother and his wife that were witnesses to my parents' marriage when they more or less eloped over to Port Orchard, Washington. So, okay.
And you know, I have a relative that did that, and one of their aunts was a witness. So you just don't know what the relationship can be.
Yeah, you don't know, but you do want to go to the original. You want to look at the whole index. So you also, by reading the index, kind of get a general feeling for, good heavens, there's a lot of Powells here, or a lot of Reynolds.
So do we have anything from the community? Anybody in the community have any Gretna Green marriages?
We're good so far.
Okay. All right.
I'd like to ask the members of the community, have you ever heard of Gretna Green before? And do you now, I mean, or is this totally new and you're becoming aware that there is a way to find records in Scotland when people have eloped like this? Okay, let us know.
Okay.
So what's our next part?
Okay, I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to introduce the poor law records. All right. Okay. And this is a family member, Elizabeth Flynn, and she had a number of children, so I find this really difficult to accept, but that's the way life was, I guess. She died in 1915, and it said that she's a widow of Thomas Lockhart, who was a cotter. But it does say right here that she died at the poorhouse, and this is the place, Craig Lockhart. And it gives you the location in Edinburgh of the whole poorhouse area.
Oh.
So she was destitute, or she was admitted at least to the poorhouse. We don't know the reason why, but that's where she died, and it goes on.
So you're saying you're having trouble believing it because if she had many children, why did not one of them take her in?
That's my situation. But then again, there's always reasons.
Okay,
we don't know what happened in those days.
Yeah, Billy, what have you got?
Yeah, have a close look at the top left of the year 1915.
Okay.
You're in the middle of World War I, when the majority of the men were away at war.
Oh, yes.
Oh, so these are things we don't. That's a good point.
You're putting it into historical perspective for us, Billy. Thank you.
So it could be husbands away fighting somewhere.
Or the son. In this case, it would be her sons.
Yeah, the sons couldn't help support her, and the daughters' husbands may not be amenable to that.
That makes perfect sense. It really does. And so anyway, so this introduces the section on poor laws. Now let me send you the link.
Can I just finish this one thing though?
Yep.
I love that we're looking at a death record in the parish of
Colington.
Okay, in the county of, can't see the rest of it.
Hold on, let me move it over. Okay. Midlothian.
Okay. And so in addition to providing information about who her husband was, and she's the widow of that person, and that she was at this address, we're also seeing the names of the parents.
Yep.
And that they are both deceased, cause of death, which I can't determine.
It's old age. It says old age.
Old age, okay. And natural causes.
Natural causes, yeah.
As certified by so-and-so MD.
Right.
And then signature of informant.
And that's
son-in-law.
Son-in-law, so that's another clue.
Yeah, Paschal, I guess, is maybe the last name. I don't know.
Well, it's blown up so much that I can't tell what it is.
But it gives his address in Edinburgh.
Yep, 255 Georgie Road, Edinburgh.
Yeah, so you have more information. You've got a lot of information to work with when you're trying to do a kinship determination.
Correct.
All right, so we're getting feedback from the community on something. Let's see what that is before we.
This is your Gretna Green question.
Oh, okay.
Dave says, new to me. Molly says, I have heard of it, but so far don't have any ancestors who took that route. Lori says, I first heard of Gretna Green's marriages in romance novels. My grandparents did leave their state of Iowa to cross over into Nebraska to get married. Always wondered why this might be the reason. And Claire asks, has Claire looked for workhouse admissions records?
Well, we're just getting going on this whole entire topic. We're finishing the marriages and death records and bringing in blotter, and we're getting into this workhouse, poor law unions things right now. Okay, so Claire, just hold your horses. We're going to get there. Okay, and by the way, folks, we've got this session plus 5 more, so we're going to be pretty busy. No interruptions, no other conferences. We may have a time when Claire might be a guest in our home here. We shall see what works. But anyway, Claire, you're starting to share a document here. What have you got?
Okay, this was provided by Billy, so this is an application to go into the poorhouse. So there's 2 pages. This is the first, and I thought we could let Billy do this.
Okay, Billy.
Yeah, now this one ties in with a death record that we did a few weeks back for my grandmother who died of cancer in the poorhouse, and this is actually her application to go in. Now, the thing with the poor relief applications, there's a couple of areas you've got to be wary with. The main one being is the reason for admission. But you've got in the second column, date of application.
Okay, let me get back because I was focusing on you for a second.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, date of application.
Column, date of application, name of applicants, their residence at the time of application.
Wow,
and
okay.
Then the next one is the country of birth or place of birth. That's Paisley, which is just on the edge of Glasgow. Now, the next column, I can't remember what that one is. If you could blow it up a bit.
See if she can zoom in a little.
Just a little.
Hour and date of inspector's visit to their home.
Yeah. Now, you can see here that this one didn't get a visit, whereas other people have. And that's due to people actually lying on the poor relief applications. They actually tightened up on it. The next column, they call it condition, but it's their marital status. You also get their age. Again, that could be plus or minus depending on how honest the person was. We know women sometimes said they were younger or older in their marriage, so they would stick to that in the poor law. You then also get their occupation, which is quite handy. You don't always get the name of the place they worked. For example, the one right at the top is laundress. So she worked in a laundry somewhere, or maybe took laundry at home.
I can imagine taking it in more than an actual laundry dry cleaner kind of thing.
In Scotland, we had what they call the steamy, which was an outbuilding, which was a communal washing area. It had massive tubs with wood or coal fire for your hot water, and then a tub for coal.
I had no idea. I've never heard of this. Wow.
Yeah, well, the steamy was a great place for women to go. I mean, it was hard work, but there weren't any men there. Yeah. So it was for the whites having a good old gossip.
Okay, so they went to this communal washing area called the steaming or steamer.
Steamy.
Inning.
Steamy.
Oh, steamy. Okay, that's what, and they had a coal-fired hot water heater.
Yeah,
And
then a
I
tub
can
for
imagine
cold.
great big huge cauldrons to
Yeah.
wash their clothing.
And the old-fashioned washboards as well.
Yes, yes.
And the old hard block soap as well, for those of us
Oh
that
yeah,
can
lye
remember it.
soap that was so
Yeah.
hard on your hands. But
And
they made that from the tallow or from the grease drippings if they ever had meat.
yeah.
Wow.
And then it was just hangers, or you hung the washing outside on the communal clothes poles and lines. And occasionally women would pay other women to do their laundry for them.
Yes.
Maybe as an act of charity, if they knew the woman was down in her luck for whatever reason. Could you do my washing for me? Yeah, okay. I'll go down to the steam and do it.
Ah, okay. So this takes away from my picture in old Mert's mind of laundry hanging above the stove in the house, and that there's 3 or 4 deep rows of
that can happen too.
Okay.
But in the older houses, they didn't really have a lot of room inside the house.
Okay.
And quite often it was maybe only one sink for the entire family.
Wow.
There was no room for a tub, or unless you used a bath, if you had one. And a lot of the houses at that time, the toilet was outside the house on the landing between the flats.
Oh, let me ask you
this. If you had
this.
high ceilings, though, and the first place I remember living in when I was, we moved there when I was about 2, and it was in Langside.
Just a second. You're coming through very fuzzy. I don't know if you've, you may need to put your mic, unplug it, put it back in, but we cannot hear you. So my understanding, like in the 1800s or 1700s here in the U.S., I mean, this whole concept of doing laundry, an outdoor cauldron with wood burning fire underneath it to heat it, to use with the washboard, wring it to dry, or then wringers came along at some point so they could wring most of the water out and hang it up to dry. But that doesn't help you in Washington State, where it rains like 300 days out of the year. Tell me about Scotland's climate. Was it really efficacious to hang your laundry out, considering the weather? It may not be a problem there, but I don't know.
It's windy.
It depends.
Let's see if we can hear Audrey, and then we'll go to Billy.
I've unplugged myself and plugged in.
You're good.
Okay. Yeah, if it's cold and wet, but it can be windy. And if you had a room that had a high enough ceiling, and we did where I used to live in Langside, and Billy will probably know where that is, and we had a pulley in the kitchen, and you'd lower it and you'd hang your washing up on it, and then you'd wind it up again, so it was hanging above you. So you weren't walking into it unless it was sheets. So that's what you could do if it was a long way down to the back green, or if it was raining. But
and he certainly had common. So that makes sense too.
Yeah. So that worked, but that if you didn't have a high ceiling, then you'd be walking through it all. But it could take a long time to dry stuff.
Okay, interesting. Billy, tell me about it.
Sorry, I was just posting a link in the community there.
Okay.
The weather in general, to classify, we're a temperate rainforest country.
Yes.
Which is, so we get some good days, some bad days. At the time period we're talking about, the main problem with hanging washing outside was the pollution from the coal mines, the iron foundries, so the shipbuilding yards. The link I posted was to a museum, the People's Palace. Which,
yes.
Okay, I'll bring that up.
If you go and explore the website, you'll actually, inside the museum, they actually have an actual one-roomed house, tenement house, that was typical in Glasgow. They've got pictures of it somewhere on the website.
We'd have to look around, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think it's either in the photo library.
Okay.
Oh no, it's on there, and it'll give you a good picture of what a family were forced to live in, which was basically one room with an outside toilet, and there could be as many as like 14 people in there.
Oh,
so,
all right.
I think what we could do is look for that and post that in a bit so that they can get an idea. We'll have to look for. We can take time to look for that.
All right, so we're back to Claire here.
Can we get on this? We'll get onto the second page of that document. That's the first page, and I wanted to get to the second page for you, Billy, because there's 2 pages to this document.
So it's like left and right-handed pages.
Yeah, it's a huge. It must be a huge book or something because it's gigantic.
Ledger book.
Yeah. So this is the other side of that book. Yeah. It says it gives for further information.
Yeah. Now the column 13 is the one that people need to watch out for. The other information.
Okay, zoom in just a tad.
Let me go in just a bit more. There you go. How's that?
Yeah.
Yes.
This is a note of the information that the applicant gave to the inspector for the parish board to decide if they were eligible or not to qualify for poor relief.
They married in Singapore?
Yeah. Well, that one isn't actually my record, that's somebody else's, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, go down and look a little further, but you notice, some of them have more information than others too.
Yeah. Now, I actually helped a friend with one of his family's applications, and the wife applied for poor law twice, and her husband died each time. But she had 3 children by him while he was dead. So that's just an example of what can be in there that can really throw you. In general, you get a lot of good information from there, but double check it.
I like the column 12 because it lists dependents.
Yes, it does.
And does that mean that these children went into the poor house with the mom?
If the parish thought they could accommodate them and the family were entitled to it, yes. Otherwise, they may have been put in a children's home, church care of relatives. They would actually try and get support from relatives where possible to prevent the people going in to the poor house or the workhouse.
Do they have a form put the children under indenture to learn a trade with somebody?
That could be done as well. Not so much. Basically, at this point in time, the attitude was try and keep the family together, and as far as possible keep them out of the poor house or the workhouse. And it was only really the direst cases that went in. But as poverty increased and unemployment increased in Scotland, they relaxed the rules, as it were, and more people could go in.
What's the difference between a poor house and a workhouse? Who wants to take that one?
I'll take that. It's usually, if you look on the wonderful Workhouses website, in England it's called a workhouse, and in Scotland it's usually called a poorhouse. But they're pretty much the same thing. They were meant to be unpleasant, and you only went there if you were really desperate.
So are you talking about Peter Higginbotham's workhouses? All right, I'll pull that up.
Here's that site right here.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Oh, and I'll pull up the one for Scotland, and then I'll share my screen so we can take a look at that. All right, I'm glad for that distinction because I didn't know if it was time period related they changed the name. This is the poor houses in Scotland, and I think we've looked at this before.
Right, we're going to deal with that next week since it's already we're getting close.
All right, and then this is a similar website for the workhouses that were in England.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can I remind folk that in the last session we had in Scotland's genealogy,
yes,
at the end of the session, I posted a link to the BBC, the programmes.
Oh, yes, yes.
I went on it last night, Billy, and I wasn't able to actually get that particular watch it at all. It said it's not available. So if you can find it, that would be wonderful.
Yeah. I'll find it and post it, because what it was actually a programme, a bit like Who Do You Think You Are? But it's a day in the life of, and they actually took present day people back and put them in a living museum workhouse. So let folks know. I'll find the programme where I can and post the link in today's session.
Thank you for doing that. All right, let's get back to that document with Claire.
Okay, this is that last of that second page, and we do have one more that's just a little bit later, and I think that's probably all we'll have time for today. But Billy, this would be column 15 and 16 and 17.
Yeah, basically this is the parish board's decision whether they get help, what kind of help, and any time limit on it. Also, in the next column, 16, if it was refused, you would state in there, and then if they're admitted, that's the number on the poorhouse register.
That 154 there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can trace them right the way through the system.
That's a good page to look at, because you've got several different scenarios here, and also it looks like they digitized from the microfilm because of those scratches that run all the way across the bottom of this page.
Oh yeah, they do.
It isn't a strikeout that wherever it was, we saw it. It was I think it's over on the other farther.
Oh yeah, right in here, all these lines in here.
Yeah, those are just from scratches on the microfilm.
On the microfilm, yeah. Okay, and then we do have one from 1913, which is a little more modern. I don't know if it'll be any better. It's a little bit, but it's worth showing because it's different.
Zoom in.
Let's see.
Okay.
All right, so this is going to be, Billy, this is from your record applications for the parish of Keith.
Yeah, this is on the east coast of Scotland.
Yes.
Slightly different form. They changed the forms slightly, as you can see, but when they introduced the new forms, as you can see, the writing overruns because of a lack of space.
Yeah.
But you start to get even more information about
religion,
and the parents' mother's maiden name and residence.
Yep. About 21 years.
Yep.
Okay. Fathers and mothers.
Yeah, and this is very helpful, you know, to have the father and the mother's maiden name too. So that's really great.
And is is that the location after William Edward McWilliams? Is that where he's of?
Yeah.
And the little tiny zero means ditto for her.
Right here.
Yeah. Okay, got it.
There's a page 2 to this.
Okay,
right
there's
here.
dependents as well. I saw that.
Right here. There's the dependents.
So
it follows along the similar line, although in this one you notice how the parish dealt with it, parish decisions, and if refused is missing.
Yeah, so let me see. Yeah, it goes up there. See, it doesn't have that in there. It just says kept by above named.
Okay. And these so, are the non-dependent children. The first page bottom had the dependent children, and
yes.
these daughters or children, Annie and I don't know, Alice, 25 and 23 years of age. So
right.
very different document.
Very different document. Whether it has more information is, I guess the jury's out on it.
Yeah.
You'll find that each parishes in different parts of the country, it wasn't always a standard book. They would, in the early days, when it was more handwritten, they would vary it to suit their particular needs. If it was a large fishing village, it'd be more concentrated on topics relating to that, as opposed to a place like Glasgow, which was a large industrialised, multi-occupational city.
Mm-hmm. So we are beginning to understand that we may find evidence of our ancestors in poor law union records. And now, what is a union? Is it a kind of like a parish, or is it?
It's a multiple parishes.
It's a cluster of parishes?
Yeah, multiple.
Your screen that you had up from the website showed combination. When I took that to be, it could be a combination of things.
Combination of different parishes come together.
Yeah. Poor law union, that's very much an English term, because in England, the parishes, particularly in the south, tended to be smaller, and they grouped them into unions for economies of size. And in Scotland, they're usually much, much bigger. So although you might get a combination, again, I suppose for economies of scale, the parish was big to start with, so it didn't need to group together with other ones. But union workhouse, it's so much that was some of the, I don't know, the collective memory. It's just a byword for poverty, and but a union is where a group of parishes have come together. But in Scotland, it's more likely to be just a single parish. I mean, Glasgow, I think, had 3, maybe 4 parishes at
7.
Oh, that many.
Okay. So, Claire, you have a question for Billy about his actual research.
Right. The actual records that he provided us, wondered if he could just clarify where they came from. Were they on microfilm? Did he order them, or how did he get those?
I got them online digitally.
Okay.
Normally, what I'll do, Scotland's People's got the records on them, all digitised. But if you're not sure about where your relative was or what parish they were in, it can be expensive, relatively expensive to search. What I suggest to folk is to go to Family Search. They have them there. The image might not be digitised in Family Search, but if you can find the record in Family Search,
as far as an index is concerned, yes.
You can then go back, put that information into Scotland's People, and you'll be able to get the digital copy from there.
Okay, so you are recommending a combination of Family Search for the index, and then it saves you having to spend a lot of money looking at records that aren't your folks over here at Scotland's People. Okay.
Yeah, it's the best way to go about it.
All right, so Claire, we have had quite an informative hour here.
I think so. We covered a lot of territory already.
Well, and I think I had never heard of the blotter records before, so that's really helping me a great deal. I was familiar with Gretna Green, and I wasn't sure about the difference between the poorhouse and the workhouses, so, I mean, it's basically the same thing. Billy, just before we go, what would have been what would have happened to a woman who was suffering cancer, as your ancestor was, who had to be cared for in a poor house?
Right.
She wouldn't be required to work there, would she, if she was that ill?
No. The particular workhouse, which was Woodley, it was quite unusual in that it was set up for recovery and boosting the people, trying to help them to get back on their feet.
But she couldn't if she's dying of cancer.
In her case, they would let her do basically what she wanted. She wanted to potter in the garden to keep happy. She would do that. If she wasn't strong enough, she'd be left in bed being cared for, a bit like a hospice nowadays.
Yes. So so were they required to have like a nurse type person at the poorhouse?
Yes, there was always some sort of not medically trained as in an official doctor, but it could be a nurse or a midwife, somebody with some form of medical knowledge to help out, or the local doctors in the parish would offer set time as a form of charity tied to the church.
And of course, their understanding of germ theory was not up to snuff at that point in time. So with the even though penicillin was known, it didn't come into general use until World War II. That's why a lot of our World War I fellows passed away from infection. And wow, what a session we've had. Cousin Russ, any comments from the community before we go?
We're caught up.
We are caught up. I just want to mention a few things. We are going to have Wacky Wednesday this evening. I'm going out to dinner with my sweet husband, and I don't think men like to be called sweet. So I will say my handsome husband. And I know that one of my very distant cousins will be joining us this evening. We will be doing our What Does She Say study group session, studying the first half of Chapter 2 of Evidence Explained by Elizabeth Shown Mills. That will be Friday morning. And then Saturday and part of Sunday here in the U.S., we will be participating in the Genia Gala that Jill Ball from Australia is sponsoring. It's a 12-hour event, and I plan to be there the whole time. Some of it's convenient to me, but some of it's very early in the morning. But I figured these folks show up for my hangouts. I think I ought to be there.
Do you want to explain what that's about?
Oh, yes, because it's Family History Month. It's in celebration of Family History Month in Australia. Thank you, Cousin Russ. You keep me on my toes, and thank you for bringing the comments in. So did we have comments, or are we okay?
We're okay.
We are okay. So very good. So thank you, Claire and Billy and Audrey, for helping us understand more about Scottish Records research. Ed, good to see you again. Thanks to members of the community for joining us. I'm Dear Myrtle, your friend in genealogy. There's nothing left to say but happy family tree climbing. That's a wrap.